Hey guys, welcome into another art series video. This one is really kind of just a precursor to building a palette to talk about how could you actually not have your cat on your desk while you're filming. No, I'm kidding. But how can you actually sort of explore the possibilities of any particular given color? I thought I'd give you a couple of strategies that you could look at. And then the next video will be about building out a palette. And then after that, we're going to get into like all exercisey things. So if you're more into actually looking at tutorials as opposed to more of these sort of theory based videos, feel free to check that out. So I will start titling them, like whatever the exercise is. But I thought these are still my grabby watercolors, which are primarily designed for folks who are interested in applying some color to like a sketchbook or something like that. You wind up with a lot of colors, so you don't have to do a lot of mixing. So I think it can be good for things like this. But I'm going to take a look at this quite vibrant pink, and that I have been using a lot. I mean, mostly because if you've been watching me for a while, you know pink is not my all-time favorite color, but it's the spring, and just to sort of set the tone, this is what this looks like. It is a fairly magenta-y pink, and it's pretty vibrant, as you can see there. So, and I am working on pulp paper, so just FYI, if you're sort of like, hey, that's not moving around, that's probably why. Let me grab a little more color and say, what could we do with that? Because this is a really vibrant pink. Well, we could grab a little bit more, and then probably the most watercolory of things to do with it is just to add some more water. So I'm just going to add a little water and just what you can do, and you can do this if you're sort of considering a project too, is just sort of grab some water and just sort of pull the color out, get sort of a sense of, well, what would this look like as we sort of have less pigment here? So we could certainly get some lighter values here. You can see a little bit of granulation in this particular pink. You don't really see it in the stronger, what often they'll call like a mass tone, which is sort of the darkest you can get. But you do get some nice texture, and you can kind of start to see some of the separation of the particles um, if you add water to it. So that's one option. Other options you might want to consider are, let me grab some more here. There are other colors you could add here, certainly. Um, Probably one that's pretty common is black, so I'm just gonna grab a very small amount of black because black generally has a pretty strong tinting strength. So let me just mix some black into a little bit of my pink. I'm just using actually it's the top from my water brush washer thingy. Let me just grab a little bit more. So we have a darker value here. It definitely looks like this would be really good for sort of like shade. Like if you were using this for a flower, like this is a pretty good shade color. So that's another thing you could do. If you wanted to do the opposite of that, what you could do, and like if you didn't think if that color seemed a little too dark, you could just grab some more pink, and then we could get sort of something in between our pure color up top and that first watch, so you have a whole spectrum in here. And I just lost a brush here, but that happens when you paint with brushes; they kind of fall apart sometimes. Um, so that's one thing. The other side of this is you could basically add white, and white in a watercolor format is kind of interesting, at least to me, because white's gonna as you can see, this gets like you could really start to layer this. Um, White is gonna add a good bit of opacity to the paint, which is gonna be hard to see in our demo, but just FYI that like generally when you add white, what you're gonna wind up doing is making a more opaque paint, which may matter if you're layering things. So here's a little white. You can see we have almost a pastel shade. We're still seeing a lot of these pink particles in here. What you could go back and do is say, hey, this is great, but I really want this a little more white. You can just come in with a little more white, and then as you see, we can just get to a lighter value. So this is a lot more pastel-y than that, which I don't know if you can tell the difference, but this is covering the paper a lot more, where this really gets into like this becomes extremely translucent. So these all kind of feel like they're in the same color family. Probably the other thing you could do is add other colors to this. So I'm not going to go through a whole bunch of color mixing. If you're interested in seeing like a full on like doing a color wheel and working through that, let me know. I feel like a lot of people have gotten that content, has have seen it presented by other people before, and don't find it super interesting. But if you do, let me know. So what else could we do? Well, we could basically add whatever the complementary color to pink is, which I will tell you is green. Depending on your particular pink and your particular green, you may or may not get some yellow in there. That's not what I mean. You will get, it will potentially produce a different color. Essentially, it's going to. Let's just grab some of this yellow green because I think that would be neat. And basically, if you use a little bit of it, I'm just going to grab a very slight amount. Um, it's just going to knock down the vibrancy, but it's not really going to change the color all that much. And then if you use, the more you use, the more you're going to wind up getting a neutral color. So this is with a little bit of the yellow green. And you can really see that it has changed the tone here quite dramatically. There's almost more of a watermelony kind of color. Like it's really bringing out the red in this. But obviously it's a lot less new vibrant than any of these, like this one, or even either of our. It's about the same vibrancy to my eye as sort of the black and the white, but like the the white that we added more pink to, or either of the original pink shades are much more vibrant. In fact, we can probably go in and grab a little more of our original shade and just mix that in here as well. And then go and grab some more of this. And you can continue to play with this to your heart's content, obviously. But like if we are mostly using pink and have only a little bit of the green, um, it's definitely going to change the color. But what it's going to do, and it may be a little hard to see in this light, but it's going to really knock down the vibrancy of that original pink. So if you want sort of the something in the same color palette, but just sort of a more natural color, like this feels like it's a little bit less paint from a tube than this does. Of course, it depends what you're painting and all that, because obviously there are some very pink, very vibrant flowers out there. But this is kind of a good place to start, I think, when you're considering sort of what could I do? And the other thing that these kind of colors are really good for is if you did want to have like a green dominant color palette, um, you might want sort of a more essentially what Catherine Pooler would really call a spa color, but basically a more muted version of the color because that's going to allow whatever your primary color is in whatever work you're doing to shine. So that's basically all I wanted to talk about. I just wanted to walk through sort of the idea. Oop, we have an extra hanger on, but as you can see, like we got a lot out of that one pink. Got a lot of different pinks, and that's just working with one paint. Obviously, working with the whole palette, you can get a lot more because you have the ability to mix in various colors depending on what you like. I will say a palette like this one is great if you are looking for something that's um a little more ready to use, where you won't have to mix colors. And you can search out a split primary palette, which we'll chat about more next time. If you're looking for something more that's going to be more friendly to color mixing, if you like to mix a lot of your own colors, I find, especially when I do like landscapes or other things, painting from like real life, I tend to use a lot more muted colors with that. Anyway, I've rambled for a bit, and I will chat with you guys later. And have a great rest of your week.